Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Real News Live. Hello, Debbie Martin, Beth, Rodney, Tia, everyone that's joining. Please hit that share button. We definitely appreciate it. Hi, Karen. How you guys doing tonight? As you can tell, I switched cameras again, trying to get a little bit of better view so everybody can actually see me without the light being distorted too much. But I hope everyone's having a good night. A lot going on out there. We got a lot to talk about. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Nana. How you guys all doing? Please hit that share button and hit that like button. It definitely impacts our stream greatly. The more shares we have, the better off we become in the terms of actually getting somewhere. Hi, Linda. How you doing tonight? Waiting for a couple more people to come in here. Hi, Beth. Trying to make sure I say hello to everyone. Give me a second. We have one more minute. We'll get right to it, though. First off, we're going to talk about Biden and what's actually happening. Emails are now coming forward that show that classified information was obviously given to Hunter by somebody, whether he found it in the box in the garage or it was given to him by his father. We don't know yet. But emails coming forward from the Hunter Biden laptop show that the classified material about Ukraine was even used in the Burisma deal. That is a scary situation. That means direct intelligence was given to somebody that did not have any security clearance in order to profit from U.S. government fundings. And that is ridiculous. Hope you guys are all having a good night, though. This is crazy. Everything coming forward. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Richard. How you guys doing tonight? But that's not it. Economists are now saying the recession this year will look like the biggest recession and the biggest crisis like 1970s. I don't know if you guys remember what happened in the 1970s, but most economists now are projecting the second half of 2023 to be around the same. According to Wall Street, looming recession will feel more like the 1970s than the 2008 2007 slump, which is crazy to hear. People are too focused on 2008 and 2020. It's more like 1973, 74. It's going to be pretty crazy out there. I mean, projection of the full impact of recession will be felt probably in the second half as the lag effects from the Federal Reserve rate hikes take hold. The inflation gauge is closely watched by the Fed, showing signs of slowing in December, but it remains abnormally high. It's not going to go away anytime soon. It's just crazy. It's going to be a depression at this point. I mean, all consumer price index and everything else is showing that we haven't raised any money. And nobody's actually, the country's not making any money at this point. It's crazy, crazy what's happening. More talking about depression and everything else. Showing the numbers, I mean, Bureau of Labor Statistics is still showing inflation under 6.5% for last month, or for this month, last month. But it's averaged. I mean, if we average it out over the last 12 months, we're talking about around 6.5%. So we're still running at 6.5% average. Unemployment rate may seem low, but that's just a figment. I mean, now, of course, cost of eggs and across the board, all goods are going to go up, with the third biggest chicken or egg factory in the United States has been burnt down. 21 fire trucks were there on the scene, unable to save it. And that's just the beginning of the issues we're facing. We got one thing after another. I mean, chickens is going to be crazy. The cost of chicken, the cost of eggs are going to go exponentially high. People think they're high right now. We have no clue how high they're going to go. Yeah. Well, Linda, it's very suspicious, the whole incident. Price of eggs are very high already, and they're about to get a lot higher. Another fire. Yep. Obviously intentional, but that's what we're saying. It's crazy. Those costs, of course, are going to affect everything. Every product you can think of has egg or egg product in it. I mean, if you're baking and getting bread, getting food of any kind, unless it's a vegan substitute food, usually contains some kind of eggs or somewhere in the recipe. Crazy what's happening. China, we're going to get into China in a minute, but this food situation is going to be attacked very, very hard. Won't be long until we already know about people robbing for food, stealing food. Theft around the country from grocery stores is up, which isn't a surprise for basic necessities at this point, which is pretty scary when you have a high theft rate of basic necessities and people going to jail for it. It's ridiculous. Restaurants, of course, are already hurting again. Just one thing after another. Of course, and then we got China. Now, Chinese vessels and aircraft are in Taiwanese waters and airspace. The tensions between China and Taiwan continue to build up as a former continues to send military planes and vessels towards the island almost daily. Getting a lot worse as Chinese vessels and aircraft encroach in Taiwanese waters and airspace again this morning. It has become a daily flexing power against the island nation. The Taiwan Defense Ministry reported that tweets that 6 Chinese military aircraft and 5 Chinese vessels detected around 6 a.m. local time, well within the water and airspace. Not just partially. We're talking well beyond. Yeah, they're smuggling eggs in from Mexico, and we don't even know what kind of disease those carry. That's a whole other issue. But Taiwan's armed forces are monitoring the situation right now, adding aircraft and Navy vessels and land-based missile systems and responding to activity, but they don't stand a chance. The question is, how screwed would America be if China were to invade Taiwan? I mean, vaunted fleet of the United States Navy may not be ready for conflict with China. Recent analysis found that the U.S. would likely lose a vast number of ships in a war with China over Taiwan. Thanks to narrowing technical advantages, experts say the U.S. fleet has over 490 ships, and it's also losing in its edge in numbers compared to China's fleet. China now has 661 vessels compared to our 490. You got to think, if you go back 3 years ago, Chinese fleet was smaller than ours, much smaller. Wasn't even a question. We didn't have to worry about being overpowered. China went into a massive production hike on ships about 3 years ago. They've been following through ever since. Now they have over 661 vessels. We are nowhere near adequately prepared. I mean, the Navy anti-submarine China strategy that we had, is not going to work. I fear the awakening of a sleeping giant. They have more ships than we do. They have more industry capacity than we do. They could easily produce more. Yeah. Sorry, Michelle. It's sad. The dwindling advantage, of course, the Center of Strategy and International Studies conducted that the U.S. Navy, which had budgeted about $220 billion last year, likely suffer from heavy losses if the U.S. seeks to defend Taiwan from Chinese invasion. In the opening days of the conflict, Chinese missiles would destroy U.S. air bases in Japan, Guam, and sink at least 2 aircraft carriers, between 10 to 20 destroyers and carriers. Such a loss would be damaging to the U.S. global position for many years because we can't just go and rebuild. We're already broke. And this isn't even included in the study. It's not included in the study that we're lacking of missiles and heavy arms. Of course, we talked about that already. You guys have been watching the show. we have about a week's worth of weapons to fight a war with China. Let's be honest, we can't do it. The study did show that the U.S. would still win by using 50 attack submarines in combination with Air Force bombers. But that's when we had these long-range missiles. That's when we had the munitions. The problem is we do not right now. It's scary watching what's happening. Of course, Taiwan is warning the show of U.S. military is preparing for war. I mean, the warning by the U.S. Air Force commander that a military conflict with mainland China could come as early 2025 implies the American military is gearing up and ready and getting ready for combat. I mean, even the People's Liberation Army know this at some point now, and they're also boosting its deterrence capability. The latest warning, of course, the head of the Mobile Air Command said that war with Taiwan might happen as soon as 2025. Most people are projecting war this year. So am I. This is ridiculous, though, that we're seeing this huge push for a war at a time when the country's debt crisis is happening. And who's going to benefit? That's what I want to know. China's been slowly buying up and building up everything, even buying American land, obviously. China's also giving loans to piss poor countries besides us. They told the United States, basically, we said something about being broke, to go find somewhere else to get your money from. They're not helping. That's what they said, basically, U.S. It's sad, but it's true. I mean, we got riots in the street. I mean, $70,000 worth of merchandise was stolen from one store last night alone, and nobody's talking about it. There's no video of it. Missiles being sent to Russia from Iran. Yeah. The thing is, they have joined a treaty where every country is Iran, Russia, India, China. They're all producing military weapons at a high rate of speed. And they're all working together. Now, the U.S. has NATO alliance. You know who produces weapons in the NATO alliance? One country produces most of the weapons, and that's us. And we're broke at this point. You'll become a hippie? Peace, not war. I don't know. I don't want to become Russian. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy what's happening. And we're watching it happen day in and day out. We're sending more weapons, more planes, more munitions, more money. Night. Every day we turn around. The elite won't even benefit from this. Now, even, I don't know if you guys seen, even Elon Musk is afraid that we will be conquered this year. Not just at war, but conquered. That's crazy to hear. I mean, Russia today put out another huge threat, warning the U.S. that the end of nuclear arms control. You know, Russia told the United States today that the last remaining pillar of bilateral nuclear arms control expires in 2026 without a replacement due to what the U.S. efforts to inflict strategic defeat on Moscow and Ukraine. Obviously, we're trying to do that. Both Russia and the United States still have a vast arsenal of nuclear weapons, which is crazy because currently partially limited by the 2021 New START Treaty, which began in 2011. It was supposed to end last year, or 2001, but it's tentatively extended to 2026. I mean, Washington doesn't indicate they want to follow an agreement with Russia. If as Moscow could, I mean, they're going to use nuclear arms. There's beginning, and that's something else we'll get to in just a minute. But I mean, the scenario of nuclear arms going off is very high at this rate. Recent years, the United States, of course, ignored Russia's interest in dismantling most of the architecture of arms control. We sold them. I mean, look at what actually happened. Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, she sold nuclear material to Russia, and nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, this is crazy. Every time we turn around, it's something else happening. Thank you. I had to get a different camera again because the other one was way different colors. I mean, but the U.S. has supplied over $27 billion in security assistance to Ukraine just in weapons alone, including 1,600 Stinger anti-aircraft rockets, 8,500 Javelin anti-tank missile systems, and over 1 million 1.55 millimeter artillery rounds. What do we have left? That's the question. Javelin missiles, I think we only started with 12,000. This is a scary situation. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody wants to keep it on the down low. Nobody knows. China knows. Russia knows what we're doing. They know what weapons we don't do and don't have. I mean, this is turning to another Cold War situation. And it's not just me that thinks that. I mean, the war in Ukraine, of course, is going to explode any time now. And it's going to get worse than we ever thought it could be. Heavy fighting in Ukraine doesn't mean that there isn't heavy fighting on the ground right now. Casualty figures alone at least attest to fierceness of combat. Heaviest fighting is taking place in Bakhmut right now in Donbass. But after the capture of Soledar in the north, the Russian forces are trying to breach the southern defenses of Bakhmut and Donbass. I mean, they're going to cut the Ukrainian lines of communication and surround the town. Ukraine can't defend it. They can't hold the position. They can for a small time. Ukrainian forces are under immense pressure at this point. I mean, 321 heavy tanks for Ukraine coming from the United States and Germany. It's just ridiculous. The decision to open the way for a great deal of military aid to Ukraine. Indeed, since then, security aid announcements from Ukraine from the West have been pouring in. We've been dumping a lot more money in. We're watching it happen day by day. It's sad. It's sad. Of course, officials won't go into more detail about what weapons we're sending, what countries are sending. But this is what we know so far. Poland is at least leading the way with 30 T-72s, 30 T-91s, which are modern, version of the T-72 Russian tank and the I-4 Leopard and the 2A tanks. U.S. is sending at least 31 Abrams at this point. Germany's sending 14 Leopards. I mean, UK is sending 14 Challenger 2 tanks. I mean, this is crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Watching this. I mean, we're pouring money and weapons into a country and fighting a war, basically, that nobody can do anything about. Fighting a war as a third party in another country, using their lives to fight right now, and Russia's done playing games with it. And that's where everything's into place with even WHO now issuing advice on stockpiling radiation sickness medicine in the event of a nuclear attack. The UN, of course, health body updates the list of medications and health services should have at hand in case of radiologic and nuclear emergencies. You should have on hand. Yes. The World Health Organization has given a new advice on stockpiling medications and treatment for radiation sickness, including stockpiling their own. Amidst worries that Russia's war could result in a nuclear emergency, United Nations health body, of course, updated the 15-year-old list of medications and services you should have on hand. On hand once again. It's crazy that this is even getting listed. Of course, Ukraine has claimed that Russia's prepared dirty bombs and all this back and forth, low yield radioactive dirty bombs. It's ridiculous one way or another. It was false flags that came through. But in an extreme scenario, I mean, whether Russia could escalate and use tactical nuclear weapons as it continues to face battle losses. Very good question. I'm living in a time of unprecedented danger that we live in today. Radiation emergencies and people exposed to radiation at doses ranging from negligible to life-threatening are very possible. I mean, they removed the doomsday clock, literally moved the doomsday clock 90 seconds to midnight just earlier this week. We were expecting another update, but that did not get moved today. I mean, this is the closest to doomsday the clock has ever been since it's been established in 1947, which is pretty scary. It's not a decision they took lightly. Watching the now World Health Organization, the CDC stockpiling medication as well for radiation sickness is not a good sign. What do they know that they're not telling the people? Is a very, very big question at this point. We got to be honest. Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to is nukes. And it worries me. Worried me for months and months. Yeah. And China wins in Taiwan. China's not going to stop in Taiwan. Russia's not going to stop in Crimea. As soon as they see weakness, they're going to keep pushing through. We will see activity in the United States, I think, on American soil for the first time since our independence, which is sad but true. People need to understand Russia will use nukes at one point or another. Russian ships being off our coastline, literally knowing that they have hypersonic nuclear weapons on them, is scary enough. They use them, it's pretty hard for us to do anything about it. I mean, reaction times would be minutes if we even detected the launch in time. If we detected launch, we would have about 2 to 5 minutes to prepare. That's not enough time to move anybody to a bunker, so imagine hitting D.C. while Congress is in session and the president and vice president are both there. This would be troubling. Imagine the United States government falling apart in one fell swoop. It's my biggest concern. I don't trust the UN, I don't trust NATO, and I don't trust FEMA either. But of course, a lot of stuff is happening behind the scenes. I know some production of equipment has been changed, that's all I can say, to produce more radioactive gear than the military equipment. Don't know why. I can't give any details about anything that has been changed, but besides general observation. But it's crazy. This is what's happening, and we got to be prepared. I mean, something's going wrong. The Earth knows something's wrong. And when the Earth's core just stops spinning, I mean, that controls the magnetic sphere that protects us from radiation. Nobody's talking about that. The government hasn't even brought it up yet. That the electromagnetic sphere that goes around the Earth is actually due to our spinning iron core. If our iron core is no longer spinning, that effect, that magnetic effect that, of course, shields us from radiation from the sun and everywhere else, is obviously dissipating. It's crazy. Nobody's talking about it though. Study shows up and next day it's gone. Hush, hush, push it under the table. Nobody wants to see this. It's crazy times ahead, as we can guess. But don't know what's going to happen next. I say be prepared. Be as ready as you can be. I know it's not a good time to try to stock up on stuff or anything because prices are through the roof and income is down. It's not a good time. But God bless you all. Definitely God bless you all. God bless America. You gotta hope for the best. Pray for the best. You guys can afford to donate, please do. For families in need, as we're raising money for Easter now. If not, we understand. But much love to all of you. Be safe. Be strong. God bless you. God bless America. Good night.